Hi guys, welcome to the live. So as most of you have heard at this point in time, I did take a couple weeks off. I flew in secret to visit with my brothers. So there was a lot of hush hush about that. I couldn't say anything ahead of time because I would give away the secret. But so yeah, I was in Savannah and Virginia for a minute. Hello everybody. I can see you guys popping up there. That's awesome. So there wasn't a live event schedule for this month because things were just all over the place. So really what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to just be day by day going live and just doing some fun stuff. So I'm going to repeat this again tomorrow. I have something else planned with the vacation series of glitter. But this is something that I could kind of plan ahead of time and have something ready to go and show you guys a fun technique that I was inspired by with nail art from Pinterest. Hi, hi, hi. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and get started. First thing I'm going to do is go over what I'm using. So I'm repping the Woody's Goodies today. I'm wearing the shirt from them because that's what I'm using on this tumbler. I'm going to be using some neon pigments, and as I go through each one of them, I'll show you what they are and what their name is. And I'm also going to be using some alcohol ink that I got from them. I will be using some UV resin, and I'm going to put my bird's eye view camera up in a second and show you guys this stuff all over again. I'm just going to briefly go through it really quick. So UV resin, I have my UV light back here. I'm going to be using 91%, I know you can't see that very well, but 91% isopropyl alcohol. I'm going to be using some white snow dispersion color from Counterculture DIY. Always have my little medicine cups, and then I have an assortment of paintbrushes, random sizes, just because there's a bunch of different little things I'm going to be doing with them. And you can decide if you do this, which brushes work best for you. I've figured out that it depends on how large or small scale you're doing it, which brushes work best. So we have that. We have the pigments, which I'll show you in a second. I think that's it. And then I'll go over what's underneath the cup. So everything is so good, Jessica. Okay, so let me swap you out here. So what I have is it's a 30-ounce modern curve tumbler, and it's ragged. You can see that. So underneath this black spray paint is a mix of 3 of our glitters, which I used on another live stream, the Mama Bear tumbler. I used 3 of our glitters and mixed them together and base coated the cup. This is that same cup from that video. I'm just doing something different with it now. So it's fully covered in spray paint except for a line right here, which might be kind of hard for you to see. This is a line of painter's tape so that when I peel that off, it'll have this strip of the glitter underneath, and I have a purpose for that as well. That's where this cup can get customized with a name or a saying or something. I wanted to leave a spot open for that. All right, so we're going to just get right into it because I saved these lives. So if anyone misses part of it, they can re-watch. And per usual, you guys, everything that I'm using, I will link in the descriptions after we're done. It doesn't let me do it ahead of time. So let me figure out the best way to set you guys up here to see. That'll work right there. Okay. So what is underneath here is the glitter mix, and then I put 1 coat of epoxy. That's why you can see all of this, which I wasn't worried about for sake of showing you the technique. If you're going to do something like this, you may want to make sure that you have this a little bit smoother. It saves you some aftercare. It makes it so that you can just keep moving right along and not have to go back and fix things. And this is a technique video. For sake of time, I just sprayed it and went on with it. So this is the UV resin that I'm using. I really, really like this UV resin. So this is from Resin Rocks. I know that's hard to see, but it's from Resin Rocks, and there's their website there, resinrocks with an X.com. And I'm using the White Snow Dispersion color. There we go, from Counterculture, which is an epoxy dye. And I've put some of my UV resin into a little cup, and I've put some of the white dye in there and mixed it up. You can see my spray paint hands. Aw, sorry about that. I will save it though. This one's just going to be a fun one. So I'm going to take one of my little medicine cups here, and I'm going to put some of my 91% alcohol in it, just so that I have something to clean my brush off as needed. And this is how we're going to do it. So I am going to have to put this underneath the light to cure, and my extension cord doesn't reach all the way over here. So I'll pop it back up to the other view so you guys can see when I'm doing that. This is the paintbrush that I'm going to be using. And I'm going to find this is my line here. I know that's terribly hard to see, but I want to start on the opposite side of that line. So this is where I'm going to be starting my smoke design. So I'm going to go right into, let me put this where you can see it. Where can you see it? You can see it right there. Okay. So this is my UV resin with the white dye. And I'm going to start at the bottom and just kind of paint a not perfect line up the cup. Okay, this is not a perfect art by any means. And the beauty of UV resin is it doesn't cure until it goes under the light, so you have time to play with this, okay? So I have my line there. I am going to clean my brush in my little cup of alcohol. This is what is off camera here, just a little cup of the alcohol. And I'm going to clean my brush off in it. But I don't want to knock that over, so I'm going to keep it out of the way. It doesn't have to be perfect. It just gets most of that UV resin off the paintbrush. And I'm going to just wipe it right here on this paper towel that I have right here. You just can see my little paper towel. Wipe my brush off on there. So I'm going to take the clean brush and kind of just move this line of UV resin around. Kind of fan it out a little bit. A little bit more towards the top, making the top a little wider. Okay. So now that I've gone through and patted out, patted out the UV resin, I'm going to clean the brush off again. But I'm going to dip back into the alcohol. So this is my cup that has the alcohol in it. I'm going to dip my brush right back into there, and I'm going to start kind of just tapping the alcohol into the UV resin so that it starts spreading that white tinted resin out and giving it a smoky look. The best part about this is there's no right or wrong. If you start dabbing your alcohol on and you think that it's too spread out or you don't like the way it looks, you can go back in with more resin. So I'm literally going to just do this all the way down. I'm just tapping in some alcohol so that this starts spreading around and looking smoky. And I'll move this closer to the camera for you guys once I have it done. I know this is kind of hard to see, but I have to be careful how I tilt the cup so that the alcohol doesn't run in any weird directions. Just see if I can get that to focus. There we go. So you guys can see how it's spreading out. Hi. Just going to keep doing that, keep dabbing in the alcohol. I kind of like touch it to the side so that there's not a ton on here, because it's easy to get more, but if you get too much, it just wants to like run down your cup and make a big mess, and that's not what we want. We don't want a big mess. So I do want the top of this to be larger. Like if the smoke is rising from the bottom, I want there to be like a decent sized plume of smoke towards the top. So I am going to dip back into my white dyed resin. And I'm going to just kind of touch a little bit of that in here so that I have more to spread out in these areas. Let me see if I can get you a better angle on this that doesn't have so much reflection on it. Okay. So you guys can kind of see what's going on here. So I'm tapping in that white dyed UV resin. Not a perfect art by any means. It's just getting slapped on there. In a way that kind of looks like a smoke pattern. Just what you want to be conscious that you are creating smoke. So you don't want to just like blob a straight line. You want it to kind of curve and move as real smoke would. Real smoke isn't going to follow just a straight line. It's going to just go where it wants to go. So I'm kind of putting a little bit more in places where I want to spread it out more, or maybe concentrate the white even if I'm wanting the white, because we are going to put pigment over the top of this. Okay. Can you guys see that? Or is it going to be a bear? It's being a bear. Here. There we go. So you guys can kind of get an idea of that smoky look from blending it out with the alcohol. So I'm going to go back in now to these sections where I added more of the resin. I'm cleaning my brush in the alcohol to get the excess resin off, and I am going to wipe it on my towel before I go back in to start spreading this out. I'm kind of just pouncing the alcohol into the UV resin. Oop, run away. And I'm going right around this outside edge here because that's going to make it bleed outwards. I don't want sharp edges. I want really, really soft, smoky edges. Okay, same thing, going down around here where I pounced more of that in, going right to that outside edge and just touching the alcohol in so that it has a chance to bleed and move around. This is especially fun because you really get a different look every time. And you can kind of figure out like where to pounce it in and where to leave it alone, which is kind of a really neat effect in itself. So once you're satisfied with how your smoke is formed, you want to let the alcohol dry. Which doesn't take very long at all. You can help it out. You can blow on it. You can put heat on it. Dry out the alcohol. And then what I do is I go in with a Q-tip and I go into the alcohol and I just get the Q-tip a little bit wet. Like it's not, this isn't going to like drip on anything. This is just a little bit wet. And I'm going to go through and I'm going to pick a couple places, get you a good view here. I'm going to pick a couple places to gently remove a little bit more of the white, because the stark contrast between the white and the black is what's really going to give you that good smoky vibe. Let me get this over here. I'm trying to do everything like right here where you guys can see. So all of my stuff is like right here underneath my hands. Be careful with your Q-tips because they tend to want to like fray and make a mess. So really pay close attention when you're doing it. And then you can just tap, tap, tap to blend it out. Okay. When you have the look that you want, don't touch it like I just did. When you have the look that you want and you're satisfied with how your smoke looks, then you're going to cure it underneath the UV light. Let me just pop you guys up here. So I'm going to cure it underneath the UV light, and I do it for 90 seconds. Kind of rudimentary. I'm just going to hold it there. But I don't have it set up to where I can set my cup underneath it. Here. We're going to hold it closer. Hello, everybody. So I'm going to just keep this underneath there. I'm going to keep the light as close to it as I can get it. And I'm going to do that for 90 seconds, and that's going to cure the UV resin, but it's going to leave it slightly tacky. And I'm just kind of rotating it a little bit so I can make sure that all edges are getting hit by the light. And then we're going to do the fun part. Hello to Florida. I love Florida. Okay, we're at 75 seconds. This is the most painful 90 seconds of your life, right? Emily, all you've missed is me putting a white dyed UV resin onto the cup and showing how to blend it out to make it look like smoke. We haven't started applying the colors yet. I'm curing it. And I want to make sure that I don't like cheat this step, because then the whole concept will be wrecked. All right. So now we have, let's see if you guys can see it better here. I know that's sideways, but so now we have this smoky look on the tumbler. And we can go in and add more. Like this is just the jump off point. So I'm going to move you guys back to the bird's eye view. And we're going to talk about what we're putting on top and how we're going to do it. So I'm using the neon pigments from Woody's Goodies. And as I apply each one, I'll show it to you. That way it's not so much information in the beginning. So the first color that I'm putting on is fuchsia. And this is a matte neon pigment. So it doesn't have any shimmer in it. It's matte in color. And I'm going to be applying the pigment with this brush, which is one of those refillable makeup brushes. Like you can pick these up at like the dollar store. I love these because if I ruin them, then they get tossed. So this is what I'm applying the pigment with. And I'll be wiping off any excess pigment onto a paper towel. Put that there. So we're starting with fuchsia. And I'm going to start at the very bottom here. And I'm going to just dip the tip of the brush in there and just get a little bit of pigment on the end of my brush. And then I'm going to just pat that in at the bottom here. Try to stay as close on this area as you can. You are going to have some that flicks all over the place and gets on the outside, but we'll do cleanup afterwards. Just try to do your best to stay as concentrated in the smoky area as you can. Once you've tapped down the color, I like to go in with the brush and really buff it in. I like to make sure that I have a really good concentration of color there. And then what I do is I take my brush and I just kind of like gently work it upwards so that I'm blending some of that color up. So when I put the next color, they mesh really well together. So that was fuchsia. The next color is pink pizzazz. It's like a corally pink. So I'm going to just kind of like dab my brush off on this paper towel. It doesn't have to be completely spotless for these colors because they're all kind of in the same family. Dip right into there, get a little bit on the brush. And then I'm going to go right in above that other color. And then start by tapping it on. And then once I have it tapped on, I go back and kind of brush over it. You can see here all that loose dustiness on there. And then I go through and buff it in. Clean off the brush as best you can. And then move to the next color, which is the dark orange. And it is Sizzling Heat. So I'm going to see if I can get some more of this off my brush, just so there's no excess on there. Dip into this orange, and that's going to go right in on top of the other color. And pat, 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 pat. You guys are going to hear my voice if you're trying this. Pat, 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 pat. Pat it in. I wish that would focus a little better, but it is what it is. And then I'm taking my brush and I'm kind of just rubbing little small circles to really buff that into the resin underneath and also blend the two colors together where they meet. I have paper towels literally surrounding me. So what I'm doing is I'm just wiping the brush off on a paper towel that's to my right. So I'm not mucking up my little workspace here too bad. Next color is the bright orange, which is poofy. It's literally the color of cheesy poofs. I know that's not translating well, but it's literally cheesy poofs. The fairy sprinkles. Okay, going right in, pouncing that color in. And I know like down here, like that doesn't look like smoke. That doesn't look like much. It will when I clean it up, trust me. Okay, now that I have it pounced in, I'm going to go through, rub little gentle circles to really buff that color into the resin. And then I'm kind of just tapping a little bit of the excess up again so that when I put the next color, they blend. There's not like, so you can see I'm kind of just like tapping that color up here. So there's a little bit of it so they blend together and there's no stark lines. Okay, now the yellow, super bright neon yellow. This is conniption fit. I'm going to kind of tap that in there where I brought that color up a little bit. So they blend and then move up with it. So it'll be kind of, come on and focus for me, please. I'm not sure why this camera gives me such a hard time about focusing. There we go. See all the powder on there? So that's what happens when you start tapping it in. And then that's why you're actually going to go through and rub little circles, because all of that extra that's laying on top loose is going to buff right into the resin. And I'm taking some of that excess and I'm working it downwards to blend with the orange, making sure I get all these edges really good. Okay. The green that we're using is Green Goblin. There we go. Man, this thing is a beast. Okay, so Green Goblin, and these are much brighter in person than they are reading on camera. So I'm going to go right into that green. Same thing, tapping it on. The only thing you want to do is, depending on how many colors you're using, you just want to keep an eye on how much space you have. Like I know that I have 2 more colors, so I have the perfect amount of space to put those 2 colors in. So just be mindful of that if you're wanting to fit multiple colors. Tap that green in, and I do want to work some of this green up to mix with the blue because it's pretty. And then down here to blend with the yellow. On to the blue. Super pretty bright blue. And that is Frostbite Blue. And if you missed any of the colors, you guys, I'm going to put them in the description of the video on the Facebook group and on the YouTube. So if all else fails, you can refer back to the YouTube and get the links for everything that I'm using. Going in with that blue, pouncing that in here. Just making sure I get all these outside edges and then kind of moving some of that blue up so that it can mix with the purple. And then also down into the green. I'm going to take some of the excess blue off my brush. That way I can blend without putting too much product down. So you can see, I know you can't, but really, right here where these two meet, it's so pretty together. All right, got the blue in there, and now we're going to do the purple. So this is moving really quick. The last color is a super, super rich purple. I love this color. It's Miss Muffet's Tuff It, and you'll have to excuse my label got water on it. So this is Miss Muffet's Tuff It. I know that's hard to read. It's a really fun technique because you can kind of do whatever you wish with it. There's a lot of different variations color-wise, and you can burnish different holographic glitters onto it if you choose. I just really wanted to work with the neons over the black. I thought that would look really neat. So I'm pouncing that purple in, making sure that I'm getting down into that blue. Having to use a little bit more powder than in the other areas because this is the widest part of the smoke. I'm pouncing in with all of the color that was on the brush, and then I'll go through and buff it, like little circular motions, move it into that blue a little bit. I'm going to get some of the excess off my brush now. Not all of it, obviously there's still purple on my brush, but when I'm blending the two colors together, I try not to completely cover one with the other. That's why I clean my brush off. Making sure I get this edge really good. And there we go. Okay. Give me 1 second to make sure that I don't knock over anything that's super important here. I have a few other paintbrushes that are totally clean and dry. What I do first is I go in and I brush off the excess around the edges. Kind of go through with the brush, and then you can keep a paper towel close by so that you can brush off if you need to. But I'm going through here. Let's see if I can get this to focus. Come on, camera, this is what we want to look at. So these little edges right here that are kind of like messed up, I'm taking the brush in and I'm cleaning those up. Just getting any loose powder off of those edges. That way, if there's any part of it that hasn't been buffed in, it's removed from those edges. I'm going to do the same on the other side. As you can see right there, I have loose powder. So I'm using this dry brush to just get as much of that loose powder off as I can before I go in to actually clean it up. That just prevents it from getting muddy when you go in with the wet paintbrush to clean it up better. Because there won't be any loose powder there to mix with the water and make a big mess. Okay. I think we are good to go. The colors on the smoke, I'm using neon pigments from Woody's Goodies. All right, once you've done that part where you've cleaned up any like extra powder that dusted around the edges, you're going to want to do this next part really, really carefully because you could potentially mess up the whole thing. So I'm putting a little bit of my 91%. Whoops, and I'm spilling it, but putting a little bit of that into one of these cups, and I'm not dipping the whole brush in there. I'm just dipping the very tip of the bristles in, and I'm actually going to blot it off on a paper towel. I don't want this brush to be super wet. So I'm going to go in. There's got to be a better angle here. Hold on one second. I'm stuck on the table. So I'm going to go in with this brush that's lightly moistened, and I'm going to just touch these little edges right here just to clean up any excess pigment that's on the outside. It just really leaves it with a really crisp smoke look. You're going to want to frequently clean this brush off. So I'm going back into the alcohol, just the very, very tip of the bristles, and then blotting that off again. On these outside areas, I'm going to wipe those off with a paper towel, but right in here, just kind of lightly cleaning it up with the edge of a paintbrush. And repeat the same thing on the other side. Just getting right into these little edges and crevices. That's going to be what gives you that definition. It's not going to be perfect. I'm using what I spilled on the table. Don't judge me. But again, it's smoke, so you're not looking for perfection. You're just going to want these edges to be a little crispy. The alcohol will reactivate the UV resin if you're not careful. That's why I'm telling you to blot off your brush. Like, don't go in with a really wet brush. Otherwise, you're going to have a big old mess on your hands. But you'll be able to look at this and see where you need to clean up very easily. It's not translating on camera, but in person, you would totally be able to see. Okay. You can also go in some of your middle places throughout here, and you can kind of touch those with your damp brush. If you're wanting to create some holes in the smoke, you can do that as well. Just clean it off so that you're not mixing your colors up. And I'm just lightly touching it, the dampened brush, just lightly touching it so that I'm removing little bits of excess powder. Not a lot, because the whole point is for it to be colored. You go in here and start removing all your color, you're going to mess up the whole thing. Okay. Hello. Let's see here. Can you guys see this okay? Let me switch cameras and see if the other camera will show it any better. Let's find out. Let's see. Let me move this out of the way for a second. I don't know that that's any better, but if I hold it really still, maybe it'll focus. So you guys can see how it's going to give you that look, that illusion of smoke going up the side of the tumbler. And again, you can play with this like as much or as little as you want. You can make it bigger. You can make the white more. You can do whatever you want with this. I could go in right now with the white and I can add more to it if I see fit, which I probably will. We'll go in and I'll probably add more plumes of smoke to it, but I'm not going to do that on this live stream because repeating the same thing over and over again isn't any fun. I'm going to move to what I'm doing on this section here where I taped it off. And for that part, we're going to be using alcohol inks, which you should be able to see a little better with this camera. So let's get this guy back over here. Okay. Move some of these things out of the way. I am going to be using these little cups again because they are convenient. And the inks, I'm going to be using Kamikaze, which you can't see the label anymore because I ruined it. And this is from Woody's Goodies. Pink Squirrel. Big Fat Elvis. Lemon Drop. Green Lantern. Rum Ice Island. And Violet Vixen. To apply the alcohol inks, I'm going to be using, unless this one gives me grief, just this little paintbrush here. And I'm going to be squirting them into one of these little cups so that it's easier for me to grab a hold of them. I don't like to squeeze directly from the bottle onto the cup because then you end up with a huge mess. I'm not trying to make a huge mess. I do have paper towels like really close by. Like I said, they're surrounding me. So there's paper towels everywhere. If you're going to play with this, then make sure that you have paper towels everywhere too. Kamikaze is the first one that I'm using. So let's start by peeling off my tape here. hold on a second. I got to get the, there we go. The inside piece here. All right. So the glitter mix that is on here is Rhea, Circe, and Iris. They're all the same film. That's washing out really bad, isn't it? They're all the same film. They're just 3 different sizes. And it's over a white base. So going in with Kamikaze. Excuse me. And Pink Squirrel. And I'm doing those first. Look, I already got a little drop on there. Goodness me. That's okay. So I'm going to start at the bottom with Kamikaze. It's kind of bugging me how washed out it's doing it. I feel like you guys can't even see it. You can't see the cup. That's a little better. Okay. So Kamikaze, and I'm going to just tap that right in here. What is going on here? Houston, we have a problem. There we go. Don't do it again. All right, so I'm going to tap that color in. And then I'm going to wipe my brush off. Hold, please. Sorry. And go into the Pink Squirrel that I spilled. Gotta love live video. Pink Squirrel. I'm going to tap that right in next to Kamikaze. Let them blend a little bit. I use the 91% isopropyl. I put it in a little cup, and that's what I rinse my brush off in between colors. I do have that off camera because otherwise I'll knock it over and spill it. Okay, so that was Pink Squirrel and Kamikaze. I'm going to move those aside. And we're going to move to Big Fat Elvis. And Lemon Drop, which is the yellow. The only lights I have going in here right now are my overhead. Like I don't have any additional light on it, so I'm not sure why it's doing that. Let me see if I can kill one of the lights. That's not going to help. My overhead lights are adjustable, but I've misplaced my remote, so it is what it is. Okay, so Big Fat Elvis is the orange. I'm going to go in right above that color there. Tap the orange in. This is like super technical, you guys. This is the super technical part. And then tap those together so they blend. I wanted a little rainbow glitter strip to like put a name on or something. That's where my mind is with this, if you guys are wondering. This is Lemon Drop, the yellow. I'm going to do my top part of Lemon Drop. This is going to bug me. I do not like what I'm seeing here at all. So I did the top part of my yellow before I moved to the orange to blend them. That way I didn't mess up my top part there. I'm going to fight these lights. I'm not sure what this thing is doing right now. It's a little bit frustrating, this camera, because this is the one that's supposed to not do that. Like, I bought it intentionally because it's supposed to not do that, but obviously it's having issues. All right, so the next colors are the green, which is Green Lantern. I'm just gonna have to keep moving through it. I know it sucks. It doesn't look right, and I apologize, but if I don't keep going, then it'll all be lost. Sorry, the blue was the Rum Ice Island. And then the purple is the Violet Vixen. See if there's any possibility of saving this. Going in with the green, so I know that I'm gonna have to have room for blue and room for purple. I'm gonna paint the green on. And then just tap it in where it meets the yellow, because I can go back in and tap those colors together. In just a second, I'll go back over it again, but I want to get them all laid down. The blue. Tap those together. And the purple. Yeah, I know, it's fighting me. Okay, so the purple goes right here at the top. I'll move this again where you can see it better, but for right here, applying it, this is how I have to hold it. The purple at the top, and then touch them together to blend. So then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay this down. I'm gonna see. That way or the other way? There we go. I'm just going to leave it right there. I'm going to go back through the colors really quick, and I'm going to add a second layer because I love to layer the inks. So I'm starting again with Kamikaze, which was the bright pink that's at the very bottom. I'm going to kind of just dab that in. And then the pink squirrel. Same thing, dab that in. Making sure we're getting a really pretty blend between the two. And then the orange, Big Fat Elvis, is right here. I had a little bit of residue from my tape that was left over on the cup, and it was trying to repel the alcohol inks. But what I do with that is I literally just paint them on, let it dry, and then layer it. So like if I have a spot that's being a jerk, just blow on it so the ink dries really quick. And then just keep touching it to cover up. And it'll be covered. Easy peasy. Lemon Drop is the yellow. Just sticking right in the middle with that so that I don't get a bunch of green or a bunch of orange. And then I'm going to kind of push downwards on the orange to blend those two. Same thing where the green is. Why is it looking like my lights are like mega lights when they're not? Grr. I really have to get this figured out. I'm brushing the, you can't even see. You can't even see. It looks like the yellow is like not even a thing. I'm brushing the yellow up. Hold on, I'm trying to find the angle here. I know there is one. I know there's a good one. There we go. So I'm brushing the yellow up into the green to create that blend. From yellow to green. The green is Green Lantern. I'm going to try not to cuss my camera. I'm going to pounce some of that back in there. I do want this to look a little watercolory. That's why I'm doing the second layer. And then I'm going to move that green up into the blue. And then I'll move the blue back down into the green. And then the same between the blue and the purple. Dabbing the blue in there. Making a whole new purple in between them. It's so pretty. It's so pretty. Okay, so once you're satisfied with how your colors look on the ink part and your smoke on the back side, and you don't have a camera that's being a jerk, then you're going to want to spray seal this with a clear spray sealant, and then you can decal and epoxy. So I'm not done with this cup. I'm going to keep messing with it because you guys know how I am. I'm going to keep messing with it. So once I'm done messing with it, but I'm going to keep, layering my inks until they look the way I want. I'm probably going to add more smoke using the same exact technique that I used when I showed you guys how to apply this. So there won't be any changes. I'm going to use the same pigments. I'm going to use the same products. I'm just going to add a few more little plumes of smoke here to fill it in. And it's going to get spray sealed, and it's going to get epoxied, and it's going to be good to go. So let's see here. I think the problem is the black, because I don't have any like additional lighting. Usually when I'm just doing glitter and stuff, I light everything up. I have like ring lights and like studio lights and everything. And I didn't do any of that because when I did my test, it was washing it out. I didn't like it. But yeah, this one right here, that one's being a real bear. So you can see, like, I got to go back in and I got to tinker with my inks a little bit, but that is where I'm going to put a name down that little section there, and then the smoke. And you'll have to trust me that when you epoxy over the smoke, it looks 100 times better. So right now it's got matte pigment, but once you put a layer of epoxy over this, it's going to all be glossy and shiny, and it just takes it to a whole nother level. So I really hope that you guys experiment with this technique. By no means am I claiming that I'm the creator of it. I was inspired by nail art on Pinterest. I'm pretty sure I covered that in the beginning of the video. So I'm not like claiming any original arts here, but I was definitely inspired. So you guys should check that out too. You should go on Pinterest and find some things and pin them to a board that inspire you, because then you can really be creative and think outside the box. Thanks for watching, guys. Again, we will be back tomorrow. We're going to be doing some more stuff this week. So hopefully you guys can join in. I try to do all the live streams at 3 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, so that at least the time is consistent. And if you guys can't make the lives, I'll save them. They're on YouTube. They're in the Facebook group. So they will be everywhere. All right, guys. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the rest of your day.